Hi everybody. Now we're going to talk chapter 10 in purchasing the optimal price. In the previous video we talked about the optimal amount, how much to order. Well, going hand in hand with that, we need to talk about what you're going to pay for that order. Price is one of those things. It is, for most people, the number one issue we have when buying a product or a service. It's always price. Budgets are tight. We only have X amount of money to spend for things. Price becomes the issue. It's tough, and you'll see restaurateurs and hospitality people and other business people, when we use price as the only factor, you can have some real issues with quality and service. So there's a lot to think about. It's not just as cut as dry as we buy the cheapest, which I hope people don't say in the restaurant business. But one of the things about this chapter, there's a lot of different terms which are actually good to know. And first, when we talk about the optimal price, and the optimal price, basically when combined with the optimal quality and purveyor services, is going to equal the optimal value. Okay, so basically what we're saying, when we get the product that we want, the quality we want, at the best price, and maybe the server or the purveyor has done something extra, they've changed delivery days on us, got it to us earlier, done some value-added service to it, that gives us the optimum value of the product. And that's obviously what we're looking for with everything we buy, the optimal value. That flies in the face of, I want the best price. It's kind of like the overall best of all worlds thing. Now, you need to know once again what AP means. I think we talked about this before. AP, or as purchased price. That basically means when I buy a case of bananas, the AP price on a case of bananas is, say, $30. What is the EP, or edible portion of that? Well, we have to figure out, we have to take those bananas, we have to figure out the yield, take the peels off, and all those things. But AP is as purchased price, and that's what we're usually looking for here as when we talk about optimal price. I want the best as purchased price, typically. Now, I asked this the very first week in purchasing is, does the highest cost mean the best quality? And the answer to that is not necessarily. We're going to start hitting the can cuttings here real soon, and you're going to be amazed, as I'm always amazed every semester when someone will bring in something and it is a brand that we maybe have grown up with. Mom used it, grandma used it, and you find out, compared to a brand from Walmart or a brand from some other off company, it actually pales in comparison. It's more expensive, there's less of it, there's less quality of it. I'm going to start putting up some example videos this coming week of things that I've done in the past, so you can see some examples of can cuttings and understand. But I think you're going to be surprised. We had a great one last semester with, of all things, instant oatmeal, strawberry and cream instant oatmeal to be exact, which is interesting because strawberry and cream oatmeal does not contain any strawberries. The strawberries are actually little bits of apple which have been dyed to look like strawberry, and that is the name brand all the way down. And what we found in that one, the name brand, the Quaker instant strawberry and cream oatmeal, paled in comparison to the Walmart brand. It was more expensive, it had less taste, it went down much quicker. All in all, a terrible product compared to the Walmart version. So we're always gonna, we're gonna see these differences. Sometimes there are things. I point out Hellmann's mayonnaise, which we have cut against many times. I think Hellmann's mayonnaise, love or hate mayonnaise, by the way, is an amazing product. Is it the most expensive product on the market? Yes, it is. We are sampling, for example, another product called Duke mayonnaise, which is very popular in the South. It is half the price of Hellmann's mayonnaise. It is the only mayonnaise on the street or commercially available that has no added sugar to it. So it is much more tart than Hellmann's mayonnaise would be. So there we have to start figuring out, how does that affect our recipes? Do people like a more tart mayonnaise? It's half the price. And that's what makes looking for the optimal price so interesting and also hard, because now we have a whole lot of quality factors we have to look at. before we can say yes, we should go for a less AP price, or we should stick with our Hellmann's. Some other terms to know: economic value. That is how the AP price increases as it travels through the system. So say I want some fruit for fruit cocktail, but I want fresh fruit. I don't have the people to cut it, so I might talk to my purveyor and I might have a product cut for me. So that economic value is added to the AP price of the product. I also need it this week and not the beginning of the week, not the end of the week. So there might be economic value added there for expedited processing and shipping to get it to me. Economic value. Profit markup, that's the amount of profit that is added to a product that we buy from a purveyor. So a purveyor pays $1 for it, they add $2 to it and sell it to us for $3. That's the profit markup. Supply and demand. The world revolves around supply and demand. I think we've talked about this before. When the supply is high, nobody either wants it or we've got too much of it, the price goes very low. When the supply is very tight or everybody wants it, it causes the price to go up. Oil and gasoline is a good example of that. Right now in this country we have a whole lot of extra gasoline and oil, and so the price is really low. Sometime we're going to run out of those reserves and the price is going to go way back up. So supply and demand is really big. Every summer we sell a ton of pork to some of the Asian countries, and we see the price of pork go way up, especially ribs. Supply and demand. Competitive pressure. Competitive pressure is the pressure for companies to change based on what competition is doing. I can give you a good example of this. In our current cafe, we were selling a Black Angus ground chuck burger for about $4.95 that was 5 ounces. However, we've got a local company that is selling a burger much bigger, a little more money, but a much bigger burger that people prefer. So we have a competitive pressure. Do we change our price or do we change our product? And what we did was we started buying a little lesser quality meat. I don't think people appreciate the Black Angus as much as they should. And we've increased the size of the product while keeping our end sales price the same. So that's competitive pressure, dealing with the competition and making changes. We talked about this before, a monopolistic competition, and that's basically when everybody sells the same thing, what do you do to set yourself apart? So if everybody in town is selling a hamburger, what do you do to make your hamburger stand out? Well, we make our own condiments, we do our own ketchup, we give you a free milkshake with every burger and fry purchase. What do you do to make yours the one people want? So now let's talk about how do we change price. Say we've got an AP price. What can we do to make things a little bit different, to either get a better price or along those lines? Pardon me here. One we can do, first of all, is a make or buy analysis, and that's where we're going to try to determine whether we should make a product or buy a product. And we had a discussion question about that. And there's a whole lot of issues here. Some people will look at, well, if it costs me $1 to buy it and 50 cents to make it, then I'm going to go ahead and make it. But you got to look at the labor costs, you got to look at the time involved, you got to look at the quality. I mean, let's face it, there are times that we can go ahead and buy something that is better than we can make. And if we can do that and the costs are in line, make or buy analysis is important to do on really anything that you can purchase. You know, I look in our situation here, we could buy a hamburger patty, but I think it's better for us to actually make our own. It's actually cheaper for us to make our own from a product standpoint, and the labor is very minimal. But the hamburger buns, do I want to make my own hamburger bun? Probably not. I'm going to get a quality, consistent product from a purveyor for a lot less stress and cheaper than I can probably make it myself. So make or buy analysis. So now we know, do we want to make it, do we want to buy it? How do we go from there? Well, say I want to cut my AP costs, what things can I do to cut my cost? One, I could start to provide some of my own supplier services. I could go and buy some of my own products. Instead of having everything sold to me by Cisco or US Food or Reinhardt Food, I could now start going to Sam's Club, buying my things in bulk there. When I lived in Northwest Arkansas, I went to Sam's Club on a regular basis because some of their products were much less expensive than the things I was buying from the big box purveyors. Also, I could buy smaller amounts of it, so I did not have to spend a whole lot of money and have a whole lot of product to sit on my shelf. I could just go over and buy what I needed. I could also go over and get it today. I didn't have to wait to the end of the week to get it, and that was really nice. We also have what we call a forklift discount. That's maybe where a truck comes in and we unload the product ourselves or do something like that. Recently, we were looking at a piece of exercise equipment for our home, and it's funny because the price was a delivery to the curb of the house. If you wanted it brought into the house, it was another price. If you wanted it set up, it was even another price. So it's kind of you get what you pay for type thing. So doing some of those own things can save you money. Another thing you can do is shop around more frequently. All right. Sometimes I've seen companies, restaurants, they'll go with a company, they'll stay with one company forever out of loyalty. They refuse to look at other prices, and that's a recipe for disaster, because over time companies change, people change. Anytime you're dealing from a sales rep that makes a commission, in all honesty, there's a chance for things to happen that are adverse for your business. So you owe it to yourself to shop around on a regular basis. It keeps everybody honest. You don't have to do it every week or every month, but at least a couple times a year you should be looking at other options out there. Cherry pick. If you're looking at a couple different companies, you can buy from one company for one thing, another company for another. We do that here. There's a couple products that I think the quality is better. We did a lot of taste testing, panel testing. The quality is a lot better and the price is so much better on a couple products. So we cherry pick. And one company gets one item or a couple items. We then buy in bulk. When we buy, say, French fries, I don't buy a case of French fries. I try to make it worth the company's time, and so I'll buy 10 to 15 cases of French fries just to make sure we have enough for a minimum order. We want to keep the purveyors happy. Another option we can do is we can lower our quality standards. I gave you the example of the burger. It's still going to be a good burger, but it's not going to be a Black Angus, which, in all honesty, is I think as much about the name as it is about the quality of the product. What's interesting about the burger situation is I attempted to find out what our competitor is using for their burgers. And as it turns out, they're using basically a no-name burger that is ground fresh by a local company, but one week may be 80% meat and 20% fat. The next week it may be 70% meat and 30% fat. It's going to have a different flavor profile every week. Good? Bad? Well, the issue is the customers wanted a bigger burger, and that's what they see. They don't see that it is not the right quality or not the same every week. They don't care. All they noticed was quantity. So changing your quality, not necessarily a bad thing always, but it's something to keep in mind. Blanket orders, you see that in the book. A blanket order is basically when we order a whole lot of stuff, usually less inexpensive stuff, but we order all at once in large amounts just to get a better price typically, and not to nickel and dime our purveyors throughout the year. Another thing you can do is negotiate. Now, your book talks about companies not wanting to negotiate, but I find they will. Well, I'd say they will. They used to. Back in the day, we would be able to go and negotiate with US Foods or Cisco, and we would use Sam's as the other company to compare with. So we'd go over, potato chips was a good example. Miss Vickie's potato chips, US Food wanted like 65 cents a bag for. Well, we were selling a lot of potato chips with lunch. I could get those same potato chips from Sam's Club for about 35 cents. Why? Who knows? Sam's had a special deal with Frito-Lay. They sold so many in bulk that they were able to get a discount. Doesn't matter. But I went and I showed US Foods. I said, we're paying this across the street versus what you want to charge us. And when I did that, they ended up giving us a better price. So there's nothing wrong with asking and negotiate. Now, they could say no, but a good company, a good sales rep, is going to say, where do you need to be at on this? And we'll start that. We're going to sell a burger. Where do you need to be at price-wise on that burger? And you can kind of go from there. You can also do some things and negotiate credit terms. If you go into a long-term contract and say, we'll buy from you for X amount of time, you might also name somebody what we call a prime purveyor. And usually with a prime purveyor contract, you're saying, I'm going to buy 80% of my products from you. Sysco, I'm going to buy 80% of my foods from you, or more. And in turn for that, you're going to give me a better deal. And you see those on a regular basis. So, other things you can do, substitutions. We can start to say, we can substitute Heinz ketchup for Hunt's ketchup. Very similar to making quality changes, except we may be on an even keel, one ketchup versus another ketchup, but we just save a little bit of money. That is different than going from real cheese to say fake cheese for your pizzas. All right, that's more of a quality change. Cash discounts. If I just give you a check when you show up at the door with the food, can I get a discount? Rather than giving me credit terms, which means I'm going to have to, I'm going to wait 30 days before I give you the money. Because once again, that company, they want the money up quickly too, because they've got expenses to pay. So cash discounts. Hedging. Hedging is when I try to buy things ahead or get pricing ahead in case it's going to go up. I'm assuming it's the end of the year, New Year's Eve, everyone has beef fillets on their menu. So I want to start hedging, and I'm going to buy beef fillets in bulk in October, just so I can beat that price increase. Odd hour deliveries, something else we can do. Nobody who runs a restaurant and is open for lunch wants a delivery between 10:30 and 1 o'clock. Why? Because we're busy putting lunch out. So if you tell your driver or your company, I'll be willing to take those odd hours, 6 o'clock in the morning during lunch, maybe you can get a discount for there. Co-op purchasing we've talked about. We go in with another company or another group to purchase. Cost plus pricing, where we say we're going to buy all this product from you, but we want it at cost plus 5%. All right, so cost plus something. Promotional discounts. If you buy X amount of ketchup this week, you'll get $3 off a case. If you ever go to a food show, you're going to see this all the time, because if you buy this at the food show, we're going to give you so much off per case. Very common. Bartering, and we see more bartering all the time. And bartering is basically when we exchange something with someone else. Now, from a Sysco standpoint or US Food, it would be pretty hard to barter. They're not going to do that. But could you not go down to your local farmer's market and strike up a relationship with one of the local farmers there to barter things back and forth? It's a really old technique people had for purchasing. Now, you can do that. You still should record that for tax purposes. It's a legal thing. So keep that in mind. Introductory offers. Hey, we've got a new product. Buy one, get one free. Fine. You can reevaluate your edible portion cost. Are we giving too much? Are we giving too many of these things? Look for ways to affect your AP price there. There's we also talk about menu price in here, and a menu price percentage. Menu price obviously is that price that you see on the menu when you go in and you sit down. The things that go into that are your food cost, and then your food cost percentage or menu price percentage. And food cost percentage basically is that percent of every dollar that the restaurant takes in that goes to pay for the food. So a food cost percentage that is very high means out of every dollar that comes in, a lot of it is going to pay for food, which leaves very little to pay salaries or advertising or to have money left over in your pocket. A food cost percentage that is very low, well, that gives you a lot of money left over. So for example, in a pizza restaurant, if I can run a 15 to 20% food cost, that means about 80 cents of every dollar is free to use for something else. Where in a high-end steakhouse, I might run a 50 or 60% food cost, which is really high when you think about it, because 50% of every dollar that comes in just goes to pay for food. Then you've only got 50% left over to pay for salaries, rent, overhead, insurance, advertising, and hopefully have a little profit left over. That's why some of these steak places are so expensive, because their food costs are much higher. And a simple math formula for that, and it's in your book, and it's one of those things when your sales rep comes in, and we're trying to look at menu price, I'll say, well, how much is it for an each? Each steak is $8. Well, I want to run 30% food costs, so I take my 8 and I divide that into 32 or by 30, and that's going to give me my my menu price. So that's one of those simple tricks to have handy, and you're going to do that with every item. A couple other things: opportunity buys, breakpoint sales, closeout sales, all those types of things. It's too good to be true sales type of thing, where you can buy a whole bunch of product. You just got to be careful with that. Is the product expired? Is the product good? Where am I going to store it? Heaven forbid everybody loves it and then I can't get any more of it. So there's a whole bunch of issues with there. And if you want to have a one-time only sale, but I think to me that screams going to buy food off the back of a truck, which I know people who do that. So you have to be careful with those types of things that are a one-time shot. So that's basically, the optimal amount or the optimal price. Trying to get the most for your buck is very important in this business. Don't get sidetracked sometimes by different things. Do can cuttings on everything. Look for that optimal value, and keep true to whatever your restaurant mission statement is as well. All right, that's the optimal price. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.